Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1251A, and today's date is April 10th, 2017, and the title of the episode is Commercial Bankruptcies Surge as the Fed Warns of a Stock Correction. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we are seeing more and more indicators that this economy is not doing well at all. And we can see that there are a lot of financial institutions, a lot of financial pundits right now, and they're actually starting to admit there are problems. We're seeing it from banks, we're seeing it from individuals, we're seeing it from many different areas. But they're not just coming out and saying, hey, we have a problem with the economy. Of course not. But what they're doing is they're leading up to that. We can see Morgan Stanley. They're saying that wage growth right now, well, it's leveling off and it may be slowing. Well, of course it's slowing. It has been for a very long time. But what's happening right now is that things are starting to rapidly deteriorate and fall apart very, very quickly. And they need to explain away why these things are starting to happen. If you go back a couple reports, I talked about how the corporate media is going to be out there telling you that the economy is collapsing. And they are starting to push that narrative that the economy, well, there might be a problem. The Fed is out there saying, well, we might have problems with the economy, but you know what? Let's raise those rates into the weakest economy we've ever had. And we see right now that there are more and more economic indicators that are out there. We see commercial bankruptcy filings from corporations to sole proprietorships. Well, they spiked 28% in March from February. This is the largest month-to-month move in the data series of the American Bankruptcy Institute, going all the way back to 2012. They're up 8% year over year. And over the past 24 months, they have soared, yes, 37%. They're at the highest level of any March since 2013. And what we're seeing right now is that things are rapidly breaking down. Since the low point in September of 2015, commercial bankruptcies have soared 65%. That is a huge increase. Now, of course, in the beginning, they were blaming this on, the oil bust, the energy market. Then they were blaming it on the weather. They were blaming it on retail because of the brick and mortar. They're not doing well. Things are declining because of the shift to online sales. But we know that's completely fake, phony, and false. Things are rapidly falling apart because the economy is falling apart. It has nothing to do with the weather. It has nothing to do with the 1/10 of the sales going to online. It has nothing to do with that. And in March, consumer bankruptcy filings rose 4% year over year. This is the highest since March 2015. Now, total U.S. bankruptcy filings by consumers and businesses in March spiked 40% from February and rose 4% year over year. Again, when we look at this and we can see what's happening, we see that things are rapidly falling apart. And the corporate media, the Fed, they understand what's happening here. And now they're starting to come out with little trinkets here and there that, yes, things might be falling apart because they're setting this up completely. And these rising bankruptcies, well, they're a turning point in the credit cycle. This is not a positive mile marker for the economy. This is showing us that things are rapidly falling apart. Now, the Fed is warning that the stocks, they might be overvalued and we might have some type of stock correction. And when we look back in the past, we can see there two things that normally happen here. That when the Fed is out there and they make an announcement in their minutes, they normally make it to either drive the markets way up or they make it to bring the economy down. And when we look back in time, we can see at all the different points of where the Fed has done this. And every time they've done this, we see the market move up a little bit and then it crashes. Or the market comes right down when they want it to come down. And we're seeing at this point, they have tried 3 times from 2014, 2015, 2017, where Yellen has warned about the stock market. She's trying to push it up to the highest point ever. This last warning and the raising of interest rates, this is a signal that all of a sudden this is going to collapse. If we go back to 1996, we go back to 2000, we can see this was done the exact same way, where they did the same exact thing, where they gave us some warnings and the market came tumbling down. If we go back 2008, 2004, they were doing the same thing then. And we could see when they started to raise the interest rates, well, the economy started to slow down. Everything started to fall apart. They had to bring the interest rates down, and everything just collapsed. We see Bank America. Well, they're showing us that the commercial bank loan creation year over year, well, it is completely falling apart. What happened in 2000 and 2008 is happening right now. And we can see that loan creation has dropped dramatically. This is an awful situation because we saw it happen back in 2000 and the entire economy fell apart. We saw it happen back in 2008 and the entire economy fell apart. They pumped this up once again. They tried to push it as hard as they possibly can, but loan creation right now is almost at its lowest point as where it was back in 2008. Now, what we're seeing is a complete and utter breakdown. Remember, everything is connected here. It's not just, ooh, the economy and forget about the rest of the world. It's all connected. The entire system is intertwined. I said this before. And when one thing breaks, it spreads to many other things. And this is why they're so worried about the economy right now, because they could see what's happening in the Middle East. And we've been saying this for a very long time. When these countries, when we're at that point where they're going to decide, hey, you know something, we're not going to use the US dollar anymore. We're not going to sell the oil using the US dollar. This is where things rapidly fall apart. And we said many, many reports ago, there is going to be a point where the US is going to have, and when I say the US, I'm talking about the central bankers, the deep state, the neocons. They're going to have to make a move to retake control of everything and push their agenda forward. Because if they don't, it just all falls apart. And that's that. And this is what we're seeing right now. We are seeing that point. That point in time is happening right now. You can see how urgent it is, where they're saying we need to stop what's going on in the Middle East. Why? Because it threatens the petrodollar. Has nothing to do with freedom, has nothing to do with democracy, has nothing to do with crossing red lines, it has nothing to do with national security, has nothing to do with any of these things. It has to do with paper and ink and propping the system up and keeping it where it is until they decide to bring it down. And that's where we're at right now. They're trying to push this one last time to see if they can keep this system going. But the system is doomed. It is completely doomed. And no matter what they do, this entire economy is going to come crashing down. And this is why you need to be prepared. This is why you need to be ready for what is coming. Because what is coming is going to be a complete crash of the system. And it will happen in a split second. Does this mean the Federal Reserve, the United States government, central bankers, the IMF, the central banks around the world and other countries aren't going to try to stop it? Of course they are. When the system starts coming down, and I've said this before, I think it's going to happen in multiple phases. I don't think it's going to happen all at once. I think what's going to happen is the market's going to drop. We're going to have some type of correction. And when it starts to drop, the Fed will start to use the excuse of why they need to start QE up once again. Because they need to do this because there's no way around this. And they will step in, and of course the U.S. government and the corporate media, they'll all make the announcement that the Federal Reserve, the central bank, is going to try to help, spur the economy, reignite the economy, make it better than it is today, and save us. But what's going to happen is it's not going to save anything. It's going to make the situation worse, just like it did in 2008. People believe that it made it better, but this time around, it's not going to help. But they're not going to be doing it to help the economy. They're going to be doing it to help their system. Now, the economy will continually deteriorate. Jobs will continually be lost. People will be thrown out of their homes. People will be angry. But what they're going to do is they're going to step in to save the banks. How are they going to do this? Well, they're just not going to bail it out. They're going to bail it in. And of course, behind the scenes, the Fed is going to give the banks, the banking system, free money. They're going to try to push the stock market up once again. And this is where phase 2 comes in. Because most likely with phase 2, well, they know that this won't last very long. with all the capital controls in effect and everything else, what they're going to have to do in phase 2 is they're going to have to take this to the next level, which means they're going to have to blame another country or group of why the economy is not doing better, why it's not improving, why they can't get it to work anymore. So at this point, they're going to have some type of an event to blame the next phase on why it's not working. Now, in the first couple of weeks or months or so, by them creating currency, people are going to feel like there's hope, and the market's probably going to go up once again. But this hope is going to die down, and they're going to start to realize that, no, it is not working. There is more and more corporations laying off. There's more commercial bankruptcies. There's a more of everything going on. And as more and more people lose their jobs and the entire system breaks down, this is when they're going to have to usher in phase 2 of it, where they're going to shift the blame someplace else. And this is where things really start to get crazy, where the banking system closes down, everything just comes to a screeching halt, and most likely this is where we enter some type of war phase. And we can see this is where we are definitely headed. And if you have not gotten prepared right now, I would suggest everyone getting prepared, because you can see that this is going to be their last push. And they're going to push as hard as they possibly can, because they know that this is the end. They have nothing left to put out there. They need these events to make an excuse to do more. And if you have not gotten prepared, you need to get prepared, because we are down in a countdown phase right now. When will it exactly happen? Well, we don't know that for sure. We don't have crystal balls. We're not making these crazy predictions. What we're looking at is all these indicators. What we're looking at is what the central banks, what the government, what the neocons, what the deep state, what they're all doing. And from their actions, that's how we determine how close we are. And we could see there's certain announcements, certain things they've done that we're getting very, very close to this entire system imploding on itself. And we can see that it's getting closer and closer day by day. And as they continually push their agenda out there, we can see that we are definitely running out of time. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.